You know what? It can't be Daily December without another round of me asking why GPU power is not available in some form factor that nobody was asking for previously. I think M.2 as a format is pretty incredible. Obviously, it's perfect for SSDs, but outside of that, there's really barely anything that uses it at all. Like, maybe you'll see like Wi-Fi cards sometimes in laptops, maybe the odd accelerator in the server space, but I really feel like the form factor's potential has never fully been reached despite how long that we've had it. But what I want to know is why none of the consumer-facing GPU companies have made a graphics card in the M.2 form factor. At least on the surface, it actually seems like a very smart way to kind of do integrated graphics sort of differently. Because one of the things that you'll notice a lot, at least for me, looking at like CPU discussion online, is that you'll see a surprising amount of people complain about how much space the integrated graphics takes up on your average like Intel CPU. That they say, oh, instead of having integrated graphics, we could have more cores and stuff. Instead of having like the 10900K with 10 cores, maybe you could have like a 12 or 14 core or something with all of that die space you save. Now granted, heat and stuff would still be an issue, but you get my example. And on the AMD side, there's no real APUs, at least as of 2021, that go above 8 cores. So having something with 12 or 16 or even Threadripper and stuff, you put something like a graphics M.2 on there, and you'd be set to have like a purely CPU-focused workstation that doesn't really take up like a ton of space. If the way you would have to do it now is that even if you got like a low-end GPU, that's still a fan running, that's still something that's taking up a whole PCIe slot instead of like, you know, something else that you could be using for it instead. But why doesn't like Intel or AMD or even NVIDIA just make something in the M.2 form factor, sell it for like $100 or $200 and make some pretty easy money? It's probably the two same limiting factors as to why we're not gonna be seeing integrated graphics in a motherboard chipset anytime soon. Number one, heat output, and number two, just the amount of effort that would have to go into this versus the actual like potential return. I mean, have you seen like PCIe Gen 4 drives? They have like pretty beefy heat sinks on them and stuff. And with AMD's like integrated graphics getting up to like 2 gigahertz, if you want like the same performance as like current AMD Vega graphics, basically it's no longer an M.2 drive because the cooler would be so tall in order to be able to stay passive. I mean, they also could just make custom heat sinks with like tiny little active fans and stuff on the M.2, but like, I don't think anybody really wants to take credit for putting active fans on an M.2 and being the loudest fans in somebody's system being something that you put in an M.2 slot. I'm really interested to see if this even does come to fruition. I think given the bizarre state of the GPU market in 2021, that basically it's either you get integrated graphics on a CPU or you're paying at least $300 something for a card and there's like no in between, that something like this feels like kind of out of step with the current market. So I hope somebody is willing to step up at least. Even if it's not like the greatest thing, I'd love to see it. So anyways, guys, that's it. And I'll see you tomorrow.